So I decided I'd do a video with my latest deck, or the deck that I've been working on for a while. Satellarknights. Not really a meta at all, but definitely a deck that I love playing. One that's really quick and easy to put together. Uh, Maybe not the cheapest deck if you want to pick up some of the harder to get cards like the Nab or the Stellar Nova Alphas. Um, I'm running this without the Solemn Strikes just because I don't have any. So this is what I have so far. I'm just going to kind of go through. This is how I built it. A lot of it's based on stuff that I've seen on other YouTubers' videos that do this stuff. So without further ado, so first off, I'm playing, of course, Triple Denab. You can't really play him any less. I mean, one, we have, first of all, Rhoda's down at 1, so you really need to be able to pull out your cards from your deck and get your engines going. Playing Triple Altair. Um, play a lot. You can play quite a few combos off of this, as long as you have him and say another teller in the graveyard like a Vega or a Deneb. Um, a lot of Kalahana or Oasis plays to bring out your board. Trevere, Constellar, or even Delteros for that matter. Playing Triple Anook, same thing. You can actually play quite a bit if you can get him in the graveyard. Bring him back, throw a card in the graveyard, chain it. Um, Pretty good target if you want to use, like, say, Twin Twisters and try to set up your board a little bit for the graveyard so that you can bring stuff back. Um, Double Vega. I've seen people playing 3 of these. I've seen people playing 1. One feels like it'd be too hard to pull off the play, especially since you want to have him. You want to be able to use him along with, say, your Altair or your Deneb to summon or add cards to your hand, especially going along with, say, like Oasis or Call the Haunted, so that you can kind of bring out some of those big plays like Trivia. Right now I'm playing 2 Veilers. It's been the best setup as far as hand traps and everything, effects. Um, Obviously, it's great when your opponent's trying to use big board effects. Something to clear your board or anything like that with a monster effect. Um, I'm still tweaking with this. I was using Menkos. Menkos didn't really seem like it was as effective though. Going against a lot of the big decks like Monarchs or Cosmos, but still tinkering with it. And then lastly, you got triple max or double max C. It took me a while to get the second one, um, but this is pretty nice, especially against those decks that go with a lot of special summoning. Real draw power in there. You can add to your hand and get those combos going. So that's all for the monsters. Now for my spell cards, I play Rhoda. Disappointing that it's down at 1 right now, but with Deneb in the mix for at 3, it kind of makes up for it. And then Instant Fusion for that Norden play. Norden's actually been a really good card for me to play when I can pull him out. Bring out Norden, use him to bring back, say, Altair to bring back Vega, to special summon from a card in my hand. Um, 1 Soul Charge. A lot of people see better play with this. Me personally, I haven't really had the luck of drawing it as much, but it's always nice to have that card there. Um, you know, if you need it, I've had a couple of clutch plays where I've actually played it to bring out a couple from bring back Altair from my graveyard, and then I've usually been able to chain that into like a Vega or a Deneb to add to my hand. So I mean, it's always nice to have those callback cards just in case. Regeki. I haven't really actually been able to play this yet. Just mostly because it's usually been like towards the bottom of my deck or middle of my deck, and I haven't really drawn into it. But I mean, first turn hand, especially if your opponent's got a big board up, um, Pendulum monsters. Those decks are really hard or really easy to get around if you can pull this card. Uh, Foolish Burial right now. Actually, I like this card a lot because it's let me to uh, get an early Deneb or an early Altair or something in my graveyard that I know I can chain later to like a Call of the Haunted or an Oasis to get off some of my plays. It's been a pretty decent card. And I play Double Twin Twister. I tried this at 3, but it just seemed a little. I seem to draw it a little too often, and it's not always um, optimal to have it in your hand if you don't have anything that you can really afford to discard. But it's always a nice card to have. Uh, Say if you have a Vega or something, you can bring back to chain to destroy a couple of your opponent's back rows. So that's a pretty. I mean, it's a pretty good card. It's just not that great at 3, in my opinion. And then I play the 2 Sky Bridges. Sky Bridges are awesome if you play into the wrong kind of card. I mean, you can play if you have a Nook in your hand, you can play this and chain Vega if you have like an Altair or something like that, and then something else in your graveyard to bring back. Um, Pretty nice, especially if you don't have the strongest opening hand. You can use this to kind of play into it. So that's what my spell cards look like. And now for my trap cards. Of course, triple Stellar Nova Alpha. These cards, this is like an amazing trap card to have in your hand. If you can play it, especially if you can uh, bring cards back. Say if you sacrifice an Altair with it, and you can bring it back with Call, and you can chain that to Vega and to Vega to something in your hand. Uh, really comes in handy. Not to mention the draw power out of it. Playing double Oasis. Some people have been playing 3. 3 seems like you might draw it too much. And the one downside I've seen to this deck is in terms of shuffling. I've had some of those matches where I've drawn like nothing but spells and traps on the opening hand, and it hasn't really helped me much. That the next couple of draws after that were spells and traps as well. So that's the only thing that I don't like about this deck is even though it's really good with spells and traps, if you get RNG luck like that and you pull a lot of spells and traps opening hand, sometimes it's kind of hard to come back from that, especially if your opponent gets an opportunity to go big board or a lot of back row where they can chain it and they can kill off your cards in your hand or send them to the graveyard or even I know I did Ghost Tricks that sent stuff, banished it face down out of play, which is really hard, especially when you're trying to make those plays with Vega or Altair, or use the Neb or Nook to get cards going in your engines. I do play the triple Call of the Haunted. This card is amazing if you can pull off good plays with it. If you get it off early, you can either hold it in your hand and wait for when you need it most, or if say you get a bad opening hand, you can always put it down, and then on your opponent's turn, you can always when they kill it off, you can always chain it at the end of their turn or start it at the beginning of your next turn and try to make up for some of those slow plays in the first place. I'm playing Double Fiendish Chain. This card is awesome. The only downside is for decks that play with monsters that can't be targeted. But a lot of decks I've gone against don't have a whole lot of them because people don't. I don't think people often expect Fiendish Chains as much. Um, it's still a good card to have in your deck just in case, especially for those big monsters, or especially if you know your opponent's gonna try to get something off with, like the new Blue Eyes support. If you can just get rid of their effect monster that they're gonna use to try to bring out alternative Blue Eyes or Blue Eyes White Dragon the original or uh, Dragon Spirit of White, you can really slow down their plays with this. I did finally get to getting 2 Quaking Mirror Forces. This card is actually legit. I didn't realize this when I first picked it up, but the effect actually does make it so your opponent can't actually change his card face up. it actually doesn't state till the end of the turn, so you can actually prevent them from even flipping their monsters up, which means it makes it harder for some of those decks to actually have to have a face up in order to synchro or even XZ summon some of the bigger monsters. Um, I mean, just awesome. I've had some really good luck with this card. And then I'm running my bottomless trap hole. I've played it a few times. I actually had it come in clutch a couple of times when I started out with a slow hand, and they played something that they could have chained with a bigger play to make like a sea monster or a synchro or something, and it comes in handy. Um, Torrential Tribute. This card's kind of a wild card. I've got it in here right now just as cannon fodder. Like if I really need it, if my opponent's got something and he's able to make a big board out of a starting hand, I can always chain this and clear the whole board, especially if I don't have anything to blow up on my field as well. It can really come in handy. Right now I'm playing one time space travel. I was playing two, um, but really this one only comes in handy if your opponent's playing a lot of stuff from their hand or their extra deck in terms of monsters. A lot of times they're gonna. A lot of times that I've seen like Cosmos that come stuff out of play or stuff that comes from their hand, or not from their hand, but from their deck. So it can come in handy if you play it at the right time to chain something that they're gonna try to make a big board off of or make a big play off of. So it's not that bad. And then the one solemn warning. I kind of played this a couple of times. It hasn't been a whole lot of effective for me, but it's always good to have something in case your opponent's going to try to, say, Pendulum Summon or something like that, where they're going to bring out multiple monsters. You can kind of chain that and potentially stop them from doing so. So that's my main deck right now. And now for my extra deck. Um, I was running this Thunder King in my main deck, but a lot of some of the decks that I've actually gone against don't really rely so much on the draw power of their decks, but mostly through special effects that allow them to search. Uh, Side decking two Flying Seas. Haven't really play tested these much yet, or actually not at all. But the idea of being able to pop this onto your opponent's field and prevent them from playing those big XD monsters is really awesome. You can prevent your opponent from kind of overwhelming you at some point if you play it the right way. I'm playing one MST. I had cited a third Twin Twister, but honestly, I like the idea of being able to side this in for maybe taking out uh, one of my other single cards, maybe Foolish or something, just so that if I happen to draw into this and my opponent only has one card to destroy, I can do that without necessarily having to discard for that factor. And then I can always save Twin Twister for a later time when I can uh, use it with a card that I can actually chain, like uh, a Vega and a Call. You know, discard the Vega to chain with Call the Haunted on the field to bring out some of those other plays. Couple Potter Dualities. This card's not bad. Um, it is situational. I mean, you can it is it's handy if you really need it in a clutch moment. If you're going against some of those harder decks, and you have the opportunity to add something to your hand that can completely change the game. But otherwise, like that's why I'm side decking it right now. Uh, also side decking my second time space trap hole. Um, More or less for the fact that it's a filler in my side deck right now. Something that just in case I happen to come up against a deck that does a lot of special summoning from the hand or from the deck, I can always throw that in there as kind of like an extra clutch. Um, One of the new cards that just came out in the new Dark Illusion set, I actually got lucky enough to pick this one up, is Floodgate Trap Hole. I haven't had a chance to play test it yet, so I'm hoping that my next locals, which will be tomorrow, is that I'll be able to actually put this card into play maybe and see how it runs. Anti-spell fragrance. I usually side these. I'm siding these for matches where my opponent's playing spell cards, like playing a lot of spell cards real quick in a match. Um, Ghost tricks. I had a match where this actually came in contention where I was able to actually use this to my advantage. Um, it's not a bad card to have. I am playing two Imperial Iron Walls. This is actually really good against like Cosmo decks, where they're gonna basically try to banish. They're gonna use their effects to banish their own cards. So if they can't banish them, they can't bring them back with their other, like stuff like Tin Can or Cosmo, Dark Lady and all that stuff. So, and this is also good. I actually used this against the Ghost Trick deck that I actually came up against last weekend at my locals, and it actually prevented my opponent from being able to basically banish cards from my deck, which is awesome because, like I said, you need all the cards you can get in your graveyard, especially your Satellar cards, where you can make those chain plays to bring out stuff like Travere and Delteros, or I was able to actually single-handedly like bring out number 86 with 4 materials, which wasn't too bad. I was hoping for a fifth one, but I didn't have anything else I could play with it. But it's still not a bad card. But Imperial Iron Wall is great for decks that you're going to go against that do a lot of banishing, or that's basically their primary goal is they're going to banish your cards, or they're going to banish their cards to soup up monsters or to chain effects. So it can come in real handy. Um, Playing one Vanities, I had this in my main deck. Um, it hasn't really helped me out too much, so that's why I side decked it. But it's still a nice card to have, just in case your opponent's gonna try to do a lot of special summoning. Especially if you can draw into it earlier in the game, you can prevent your opponent from doing like chain plays where they bring out a monster, use his effect to special summon something. So it comes in handy. And then the other two cards that I have side decks, usually Pendulum Holes, basically Pendulum Trap Hole for the going against Pendulum decks. Again, I haven't really played tested this, but it just seemed like a decent card to play. If you're going against like Draco Pals or any other Magic Specters, any decks that play into Pendulum summoning, it can be really good in a pinch. That's my side deck. And now for my extra deck. Um, I am still tweaking with this. Um, as I get as I get more XD cards I can swap out. This will change a little bit here and there. But right now I am playing Triple Travere. Travere is hands down one of my favorite XD cards to get out if I can pull it. Especially if I'm going second turn and I can manage to bring him out with 3 materials and clear your opponent's board by sending everything back to their hand, especially if they've already got a big monster on the field like Azure Eyes or something like that, where you're going to have a harder time getting around. And then the added effect of being able to discard 1 card from their hand to the graveyard is awesome too, especially since this does take 3 materials. So you have 3 chances to basically force them to drop cards to the graveyard from their hands, unless they actually are you're going against decks that actually use that advantage. Um, in which case you kind of have to get around that. Right now I'm also running double Delteros. I've made this card like maybe twice that I played it. It's not a bad card to have, but it is definitely still decent to have it around. It's a 2,500 attacker, so it's not too bad on offense. Obviously, if you're going against like a Blue Eyes deck where they get out uh, Azure Eyes for the synchro summons, or any of the other new Blue Eyes support cards, uh, the 2 new synchros, Crystal Wing or the I can't remember the other one, the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, can be hard to get around if you can't get rid of it. Uh, right now, I also have Constellar Diamond in my extra deck. I haven't actually made him, but what I'm actually doing right now is I'm actually building a second Satellar deck with an alternative build with some of the other Satellar cards, just to see uh, how the different build might work. Um, but that deck still in the early stages. But yeah, I haven't made Stellar Diamond at all, but still, he's kind of a filler for right now until I can come across some other stuff like Rafflesia. I've been trying to get a Rafflesia. It's just really hard because not a lot of people want to get rid of that one because it's a good card. And then I have Constellar Omega. This one is actually hands down one of the easiest cards to make every match. I mean, it only takes 2 materials, so all it takes is basically Vega and something from your hand, or chaining Altair from the graveyard to another monster in your graveyard, like an Nanook or a Deneb, and you can make this card. And especially if you're going against something like a spell card or somebody who might be playing, maybe be playing swords, you can discard a monster and say, and just basically deny them the benefit of swords for that turn with this monster. It's also good if you're going to go up against somebody who's going to try to uh, use any trap cards, Quaking Mirror Force, Drowning Mirror Force, anything that's going to basically try to kill it off. You can discard one and say, nope, you're not going to do that. I can go through it. That's a pretty decent card. And then my two heroic champion cards, of course, the number 86, which I've actually made a few times. The last time when I played Saturday at my last Saturday at my locals, I actually made him with 4 materials. I was hoping for 5, but I didn't have anything else to chain to it. Because obviously you can only use some of your Satellar monster effects once per turn, so I couldn't really chain anything else with it. But 4 materials actually still not bad because with 4 materials, it prevents your opponent from normal or special summoning um, anything to the field, which can come in handy, especially if you can manage to clear your opponent's board from that. Um, and then the other one is Excalibur. Again, he's also another easy one to make because he only takes 2 materials, and you can remove materials on him to double his attack, so you can make him like an easy 4K monster. And especially if you can clear your field, you can knock out and get his attack through. That basically freaking cuts your opponent's life points in half in one turn. And then if you have him with something else on the field, like maybe Trevere or Constellar Diamond, you can really, really, really do a lot with this. I did just get a Digesto Emerald. Haven't had a chance to actually play it yet, but I love the idea of being able to use his first effect to basically reset my Satellar drive, so you can throw back your Altairs, your Denebs, your Vegas, and keep that deck going, especially if you're playing long matches where having those cards back in your deck is going to help you kind of hold off or even pull off additional big plays. Maybe you add like a Altair and your Vega and your Deneb back, and you can draw into, say, a Deneb and do Altair and special summon Vega from the graveyard. Like, it's awesome to be able to try to use that card. I'm also playing Castell. I haven't used him to as much great effect as some of my other cards, like Severe, but it's pretty decent. You can remove the 1 material to flip one of your opponent's monsters face down. Um, I haven't used the secondary effect personally yet, but it's still decent. Remove 2 materials to basically send one card on the field back to your opponent's deck. So, not bad. Right now, I also have uh, number 39 Utopia in my deck, or extra deck. I haven't played him yet. Personally, I'm not really planning to play him. He's just kind of a filler until I can get like the other 2 versions of him to rank him up, to try to make some of those plays. So more or less, he's just a place filler right now. And then lastly, of course, that one Norden. Um, his effect hands down is awesome because if you can make those plays with him, you can bring back Altair. You can chain Altair to bring back, say, Vega. And if you have a Satellar like a Nanook or a Deneb, you can bring that out and you can chain them all together and play like a number 86, or you can play Trevere. I actually had a match last weekend where I actually brought him out. He was destroyed, but then I chained him like 2 or 3 other times and was able to make multiple XE summons off of him because of that. So that is actually pretty awesome. But that's my deck right now. So Hopefully I'll start making more videos with either deck profiles or more pack openings in the future. So hopefully if you like this video, like and subscribe. I'm still in the process of changing things because obviously I've got other videos on here that are non-Yu-Gi-Oh related, but I'm in the process of going through to try to change that. So thanks for watching.